Well, shut up.
It's like one of those like cult type of books.
If I like a book, everybody else should like it.
Have they read smut? Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna, this is Derek, this is Coffee, Books, and Bullet Journals, and we're going to do some one-star reads of our favorite books. We've had some adult beverages, a few, and we decided we were going to rant about people ranting about our favorite books. So, we have Goodreads pulled up. You are sort of a reader.
Yes.
You read.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay, good.
Sort of.
So you have some favorite books.
I do.
So how would you feel if people did not like your book?
I don't think I would like that people.
Okay. Okay. Like if they said really dumb things in the review.
Then they would be really dumb people. If I like a book, everybody else should like it.
Fair enough. Good point. Okay. We're on Goodreads. Give me a book.
Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett.
Okay. So I read that book back in 2018. Yes. Because you suggested it to me. And there's actually not a lot of one-star reviews.
Not surprising.
No.
It's a great book.
All right, so there are 635,000 ratings on Goodreads.
Okay.
And its average out of 5 is a 4.32.
Is that good?
That's pretty good.
All right.
Pretty much anything over a 4 is really good. We do have 11,000 one-star reviews, though. We're not going to read all of them.
They are all wrong.
Here we go.
Okay.
This is seriously one of the worst books I've ever read. The only reason I finished the book is because I cannot put a book down once I start. That's quite a feat. I mean, if it's a 1,000-page book,
at least, yeah,
and you don't like it,
okay,
you're gonna read it.
Yeah.
So, props to you.
If you read the whole thing, how did continue?
The writing is terrible. The plotting may be dramatic, but I had almost zero interest in any of the characters. They seem to exist merely for events to happen to them, like actors in a disaster movie. Like, the writing terrible? I didn't love the book, but, the writing style was good.
I loved everything about that book. I thought the writing style flowed for me. As a lover of history, that type of writing and books, one of my favorite, historical fiction, beautiful, and the fact that his story building just kind of flowed with. I don't understand that one.
The fact that he can take 1,000 pages to talk about building cathedrals and it be interesting.
I thought,
that proves that you're a good author.
The twists and turns, waiting for something to happen. I remember reading a certain part, I'm not going to spoil it, it's a huge turning point in the book, and I never saw it coming.
Right.
The biggest turning point was one of the biggest shockers, Red Wedding.
Right, yeah.
You didn't see that one coming. This is on level with Red Wedding.
What got me most was Ken Follett seemed to be so proud of his historical research that he mentions every 40 pages, so-and-so took out his or her eating knife. Really? They didn't have forks. How was constantly reminding the audience of this fact important to the story.
Why was it so important to point out? Just read.
Right?
Did it ruin any of the story?
Violent sex? There's violent sex in that book? Or is this person...
I mean, there was one scene that I wouldn't say was violent sex. It was a rape scene.
But, comparatively speaking to, Game of Thrones.
Yeah. okay, go back to your reading your G version books.
Right, yeah.
Like, it was a rape scene.
The characters were flat and lifeless and seemed to be transplanted from the 20th century into medieval England. The book was rife with unnecessary profanity that in no way enhanced the storyline and obscene, gratuitous sex. I mean, how many times did William have to rape someone to prove that he was really a bad guy? Well, it's historically accurate.
It's historically accurate. That's how.
Like, clearly this person doesn't read historical fiction.
Yeah, like.
Or at least not, like, true history. Like,
you know, he didn't shy on talking about what actually happened there.
Well, there's so many historical books that are, like, romanticize that period. And this does not do that.
No, it is not romanticized at all.
Ken Follett describes a gloomy, dismal, nearly barbaric society whose citizens' greatest concerns seem to be their egos and lust for power and control. Welcome to medieval England.
Yeah.
He uses the building of the great European cathedrals as impetus for his story, the magnificent structures that were made possible through trickery, lies, greed, criminal acts, and selfish ambition. It's historically accurate.
Yeah.
Alright, well.
Okay.
So, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Most of, at least BookTube, agrees with me in the fact that it's a very good book. But there are those outliers. So we have 193,000 ratings with an average of 4.34.
I deeply dislike just about everything this book served up.
Well, you're wrong.
The concept was interesting, but the execution was so ham-fisted and repetitive, I wanted to scream. One of the absolute worst examples of telling not showing that I have ever encountered. Characters are really caricatures.
Okay.
I admitted to skimming a great deal of the second half of the book.
So, she's telling because the whole story is her describing her life to someone who's about to write her biography.
Okay.
So the book reads very much like a memoir because you're telling them what happened at each period in her life. As far as them being caricatures, that's absolutely absurd and ridiculous. I feel like every character has their own weight in the story and they have their own part to play in that story. The only thing I can think of is that we had maybe a token black character as one of the love interests, but also not really because Evelyn Hugo is Cuban. So it is and it is there's a very diverse cast. And The Secret, I did not see it coming the first time I read it.
Had to reread the chapter.
Not that much.
Okay.
But it wasn't something, and a lot of people do see that scene coming, but I don't really like to guess things, and I thought it was surprising.
If you are going to have a book set in the 1950s, it should reflect the time period. Evelyn's storyline could take place today and very little would need to be changed. Evelyn's true love relationship was unbearable and again unrealistic for the time period. Or at least Celia's approach to it was. Evelyn's character started out strong in the beginning, but after a third of the way through she lost any semblance of what made her character stand out as all the voices started to blend together.
One of the things that is a big argument against the book is that Evelyn is not a likable character. She does some shitty things to people in her life. As far as it saying that it could have taken place today and nothing would have changed, goes to show you that we have not made enough progress in Hollywood that we should have. Because the whole thing talks about how she couldn't get the roles that she wanted because she was ethnically diverse. So she had to dye her hair blonde and be very white passing to get the lead roles. She had to marry men in order to hide any type of queerness in her life. If we're going to say that it could have taken place today and been the same, that's just a cultural reflection, not a fact that it's, the writing wasn't done well.
Okay. Nothing's changed since the 50s then.
I mean, not enough.
Some of the marriages seem forced to provide a theme of lots of marriages. The event of the twist didn't really make sense. An 80-year-old using all contemporary and politically correct phrasing. Also, too much descriptive sex.
Have they read Smut?
Well,
There's not a single it's all fade to black.
Well, boobs are boobs.
Well, yeah. Like, yes. There's a scene there's a movie that she's doing where she has to get naked, and they do talk about that because it's a French film, because that's what they do.
It's the French.
Yeah, exactly. But like, there is no, like, she's married 7 times and has another lover, and there's not a single actual, I don't think, on page sex scene. The entire thing. All right, book number 2 for you. What are we doing?
When the Lion Feeds.
Never heard of it. Tell me a little bit about it.
So it's by an author named Wilbur Smith, and he writes about it's a South African historical fiction novel.
Okay.
Talking about late 1800s, going into the vast wilderness of South Africa, hunting, the difficulties that one had while doing that, being white in South Africa right before apartheid was installed, and tells the story of South African history from about 1850 forward.
Okay, cool. Well, apparently lots of people have heard of it. There are 13,272 ratings for an average score of 4.19.
Okay.
Okay.
Not bad.
All right, so 1-star ratings. Not a lot.
They're all wrong.
They're all wrong. Okay. It's funny how, like, there's multiple reviews on here that say that they stopped reading about a third of the way into the book.
Wow. I mean, he writes long stories.
Right. The cardboard racial and ethnic stereotypes, the blissful glee in slaughtering herds of elephants and Africans, the bizarre homoerotic glorification of naked manly masculinity and horseplay, the blank women, all could be forgiven if the writing were good. I'm gonna get a drink. Here we go.
I don't even know where to begin. I disagree.
Okay.
Because I disagree. No. Just no.
Just no.
Just no.
No.
I don't even know how to argue that one.
I couldn't get behind the white South African racist undertones, so gave up very early on. But it's South Africa. They're very racist.
It's South Africa. It was very racist, and I think writing about it so blatantly made you see that. Like, I don't think he was glorifying it or supporting it.
Right.
He was just saying,
explaining
this is what it was.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people will read historical fiction and then get mad that they're not using the same cultural
or standards.
Cultural standards that we would see in a contemporary book.
Right.
Because it's 2020, so any book that takes place in 2020 should have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But if the book takes place, even if this book was written last year, then it's still, if we're actually going to be accurate about the history and the culture, you're gonna see some of those things.
You're using the wrong filter.
Right, yeah.
That was actually how it was. Just because you
don't like it doesn't mean it's not how it was.
It doesn't mean that's not how it was.
Right.
It happened. Sorry.
The next one we're going to talk about for me is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is an all-time favorite book of mine. It's sitting right there. It's been tabbed and annotated. Jim Dale does the narration, which is stunning, of the audiobook. This is a very magical book in the fact that it's about the circus that pops up at night and then at dawn disappears. Yeah, The Night Circus. But the big thing about this book is its world building. The author is very lyrical and very, she can set the stage. However, there's not a lot that goes on in this book. It's not plot driven at all, and I would even say that there's not a ton of character development for a few of these characters. There's not a lot of action. So these 1-star reviews are all going to say that.
So
that's my prediction anyway.
With that missing, how is that one of your favorite books?
Because
I'm just curious.
It's beautiful. It's like one of those like cult type of books where there's just like something about that book that when you read it, it feels like coming home. And it's just very like mystical, and it's very hard to explain. But the world building in it is, I mean, like the circus and that portion of it, like the circus is a character.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
All right. So, as you said, a lot of these are saying nothing happened in this book. So I found one.
So, but let me address that, because here's the thing. And the first time I read it, I did not read the synopsis. Somebody told me that, oh, this is a good book, and it fit a challenge for my year-long Pop Sugar Challenge. And I was like, okay, cool, I need an audiobook. I'll listen to it. They got it free from the library. And I didn't read the synopsis. I didn't read anything. Apparently, the back of the book talks about this epic love story and this epic battle that happens between these two characters. And this is a case of like the synopsis not doing the book justice, and it's not really about that. So when you read the back of the book and you're like, oh, it's going to be about this, and it's not. It's more about these huge cast of characters. That's why a lot of people get disappointed.
Look, this book is beautifully written. It's about a circus. The sentences bring a magical atmosphere which is quite stunning. Also, it's about a circus. It's about a circus and how the circus tents are colored. Black and white. But not the average black and white, mind you. Black and white. Or is it yellow and gray? But really, Aaron Morgenstern knows how to write for sure. The plot, though, it's about a circus. But not any kind of circus. It's a magical circus. I know, right? Astounding.
Yeah, it is. Like, I don't see what the problem with this review is. Other than this person was trying to sound like Aaron Morgenstern and did a horrible job at it. They were trying to emulate the lyrical writing of, this book.
Okay.
And it is, I mean, yes, it is about a circus, and it's about the business behind the circus, and these, backroom deals and things that are happening with these two magicians that are destined to be each other's nemesis. So, yes, there is something that goes on in it. You just missed it, apparently.
The night circus arrived with a lot of hype, a pretty cover, and not much else. If you like reading about caramel, kittens, and clothing, then this is your book. If you want insights on the human condition, or a plot that makes you keep turning the pages, then look elsewhere. This book is very slow and boring. So, this is my annotated copy of this book. I mean, I have notes about it. All the blue is world building. So yes, there's a lot of world building in it. But there's also romance. There's also character, I don't know. This is, again, one of those, in The Starless Sea, which is her sophomore novel, does the same thing. A lot of people will say that they can definitely tell that this is a NaNoWriMo novel, which is a month-long thing where you try to write 50,000 words. Because some people say it's wordy. But what book are we doing next? All right, so the next book is, surprise, another historical fiction, The Templar Legacy by Steve Barry. Murders and finding out who did it, and it's big conspiracy theory, history. It's entertaining. I'm interested to see what people say. All right.
I should have known. This is, after all, an attempt to muscle in on Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code territory. Lots of anti-New Testament material here.
Dan Brown, great. You know, I read Da Vinci Code and many of his other books. Lots of fun. Problem with Dan Brown is for me, my issue is he writes very short chapters. I like my chapters to tell a story where he guides you through the story with his short chapters, forcing you to keep reading, whereas with Steve Barry, you read a full chapter, you're like, okay.
It's like a short story in and of itself.
Yes, it is. It is. You know, and I like part of the story being told in a full chapter versus the story told in, you know, this happened, end of chapter. This happened, end of chapter. No, all this happened. That's the chapter.
See, that's where you and I actually differ.
Oh,
because
no.
I actually really like short chapters.
No.
Because, like, you end up, at least I do, I end up reading more because, like,
Which is why people think, oh, I read this so fast, it's so good. No. It's the storytelling. You need to tell a story within a chapter and then bring all of those chapters together to make a story.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with you.
Multiple chapters just don't do it. I'm sorry.
But
you need
read more.
But you read more, making you think you like it. No, you're just intrigued what happens next, even though, you know, that could all happen within a chapter. A chapter is exactly that. It's a larger part of this. It's the story broken down into larger parts. If I wanted a paragraph as a chapter, I'd just call it a paragraph.
They're longer than a paragraph.
I'm sorry, a page and a half is not a chapter.
Please don't take notice of any of the theological discussions. His dating of the Gospels is questionable, and he makes no mention of Paul's writing. 1 Corinthians is an undisputed Pauline letter, and Paul's chapters on the resurrection blows Barry's liberal scholarship out of the water.
If you're nitpicking that, go ahead and nitpick that. It's a good story, and it makes you think.
Fiction.
It's fiction. It's a story. It makes you think about the different interpretations of the Bible, if you want to go that route. It's a different interpretation of what happened. No one knows for sure what happened.
I don't know why I felt compelled to finish this book. The fact that it took me forever should have tipped me off. Aside from this sacrilegious atheistic premise, which was not revealed until near the end, the book is simply not very well written.
I thought the story flowed really well. Like, what were some of the other
whiny
bitch complaints?
A key theme throughout the book is the tension and failure to forgive between a mother and her supposedly Christian monk son. Some conversion, he hates his mother and blames her for everything.
I don't remember that part of the book. Were you talking about the same book? Where
after suffering through endless...
It's been a while.
Well, yeah, but like you remember books pretty well.
I'll have to reread it and get back to you on that.
Cool.
Is it the drinks or is it the person being stupid?
Maybe the person was drinking when reviewing.
Okay, that might make sense.
Alright, the last book that I'm going to do is one of my new favorites, and so you guys all know what it is. It's Take a Hint, Danny Brown. Like,
I could have told you that.
Could you have?
Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert.
Talia Hibbert. This was like an easy 5-star read for me. It got me out of my like huge 2-month-long coronavirus reading slump. And I don't know what anybody's going to say negatively about this book. So let's see.
Okay.
Because I don't think there's anything wrong with this book. There's nothing wrong.
Okay, so you really like this book?
I do.
The author's heart is probably in the right place, but as a Muslim, I feel offended that the male love interest engages in extramarital sex. I know Goodreads is pretty much exclusively an Anglo-American community, and adultery isn't a big deal to you, but that isn't the case with Muslims. I don't see the point of writing about a Muslim character if you're going to pigeonhole us in your Western cookie cutter perception of relationships. I had no idea it was going to go there. Have at it.
All right.
I'm not going to comment because I don't know the book.
So it's a romance. There's gonna be sex. Like, you can't have a romance book without sex. And the fact that she's upset that we're pigeonholing the Muslim character, which I don't even know that he was Muslim. I'm trying to remember if he was like actually like a practicing Muslim or just like his family was Muslim. I don't remember that part. I mean, he listens to like romance audiobooks, which is like the coolest thing about that character.
He listens to them?
Like audiobooks.
The character does?
Yeah. He gets caught with it not being in his headphones, and so the main character hears a sex scene. Like, that's how they meet.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's great. You should read it.
Okay.
But anyway, if they're mad that they pigeonholed the character into this Western view of society, but at the same time, this person is pigeonholing this character into what their view of the faith is. Because, I mean, there's, like, if you think about it, like, in the Christian faith, it's also a sin to have premarital sex. But there's a lot of Christians that have premarital sex.
Okay.
So, we don't pigeonhole that.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, I'm not Muslim, so it's not a known voices, like, you know, mentality. I could be very wrong about this, but I didn't see it as an issue.
Okay.
Again, not my place to see it as an issue, but...
Okay, so, I mean, just... She feels that way, and we can't take that away from her.
Well, yeah, no, that's fine,
so,
except for the fact that, like, she's pigeonholing the character the same way that she's accusing the author of pigeonholing.
Fair enough. Not for me. I liked some parts of the book, and I was not going to continue, but the premise was so appealing to me, as I am a PhD student, and I thought I will connect with the main character. Nope. For me, she was unlikable, and the male main character was also unlikable. They were caricatures, spelled so incorrectly that it took me forever.
Let's just stop right there. We'll pause. Danny's not supposed to be likable, but she's like a badass bisexual witch with pink hair.
I'm in.
Right?
I would love to read about that.
You should definitely read this book. I have 2 copies.
Well, we can read it together.
It'd be my 3rd time reading it this year.
Well, then you'd win the race. Not fair.
So, and Zaf is the sweetest cinnamon roll of a character ever. And he's so sweet, so protective, and it's so funny because, like, Danny is super surprised that Zaf is into her work and into her studies, and, like, that just, like, blows her mind that, like, somebody else would be interested in what she's doing, and, like, it melts my heart a little.
Oh.
Anyone else hate this book? Because they're wrong.
Just getting 1 stars, no comments after that.
I never understood that, especially for books that, like, just came out. Like, this book came out last month, 2 months ago. Like, I get it, like, for the older books, like the classics and things like that, but...
Even then, if you're going to give it a 1 star, explain
yeah.
why.
2, 3, even maybe 4 stars, sure. But 1 stars and 5 stars need a review. Alright, guys, so that was our drunk reading of 1-star reviews of our favorite books. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you had fun. This is going to be a bitch to edit.
No fun.
Thank you all for watching. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video, and all of the other links to my other social media will be in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. I'm really glad I did that all in one take while drunk.
While drunk.
I can't even do that sober most of the time. Okay, bye.
Makes this heart beat faster.